heard about collaborative practice, I'm trying to think how I heard about that. I think that Gay must have mentioned it to me. I think they were trying to get a practice group, or they were trying to get something going on about collaborative law. So Gay and I had worked together quite a bit in some CPS cases where I represented the parents sometimes, and other times I represented the children. And as I understand collaborative law, it's kind of like everybody sits down at the table and you have a common goal where you're trying to do what is best for the whole. That's my understanding. That's my takeaway from it. And so as that relates, that part of collaborative law is the part that I think would relate well to CPS cases, because remember, at the beginning, the goal is reunification. So if we have that as our goal for everybody sitting at the table, then it shouldn't be as antagonistic as it is. That's one thing I don't like about the CPS cases and the litigation process. Litigation is adversarial. So how are you going to say over here we have this adversarial process, but yet the service plan says reunification? How are you going to reunify when you're in litigation? It's like oil and water. It didn't, and it just didn't mix to me. And so I just thought that even though they said that the goal was reunification, I just didn't see how in practice that's what was going on. And so that's where I thought the collaborative law might be able to fit in, to really make it the service plan true to what it said. When we first started out, there were just the three of us. I work with CPS at every level, so I know who to go to. And so I was to invite the CPS people, the regional director, Lisa Black, called her. I've worked with her, and she's very receptive, and she was willing to come. Ted Keating, the regional managing attorney, worked with him, very receptive. Thought we needed to get the DA at the table. And then Phil Hawkins, he's a CPS, FBSS person. You know, the CPS people, they are good people to work with. They're good people to work with. They have expectations, some of which are probably not written. But, you know, I think by and large they have good hearts and they want to do the right thing. So that's how we grew, got the right people on, and once our small group, Gay, Jan, Jessica, myself, Ulysses, Frederick, and I got together and got our little model together. We got it polished enough where we thought we could make a presentation to the CPS people to see if they would be interested and think this might be something that might help the families. I called them, or we sent out an email and said, you know, would you be willing to come? And they said yes. So we set another meeting and we gave them our little presentation about what we thought it would look like with collaborative law involved with CPS at the FBSS stage before kids were removed. You know, dealing with CPS is a big agency, and it's a lot of bureaucracy. And I kind of thought in the back of my mind, I don't know if these people we have at the table are going to be able to make a decision one way or the other, but they didn't stammer, they didn't hesitate, they just, they were very receptive. So once we get it all tightly wrapped and polished, then we're going to present it to the judge, who we're going to try to do the pilot project with, Judge Shannon, in the juvenile court. So that's, and once she blesses it, then we'll get it started. I think what is going to change is that obviously the parents will have, they will have some help at the very beginning, that hopefully, if it's impressed upon them that first of all there's someone is behind them and trying to help them through this, then maybe that will encourage them to finish what is needed, not just for the sake of getting your kids back, but to make a change so that you won't have to go through this again, so that your child can be, you can be what you need to be for your child, so that they can be a productive member of society. As soon as the child is removed, they file termination. And so the code says, you know, that if the parent appears in the hearing against their child being taken away from them, then the court, if they are indigent, should give them a lawyer. And so now, at the beginning of the case, since the parents have attorneys, they can start immediately doing what they're supposed to do. The attorney can push them. They can, you know, make sure they don't talk to everybody and say things that can be incriminating if you do end up in a trial. So now with the collaborative law process, if we get it implemented, then before a child is even moved, that same parent who the department is offering services to will have someone to help them, and not just feel like they're out there on their own, and I need to tell the collaborative lawyers who are going to be working with the CPS parents, it's going to be a whole lot of hand-holding. Social worker with a license, and there are better ways to resolve conflict, especially as it relates to the family. It's a family, for crying out loud. It's not, you're not arguing over money, you're not arguing over assets, physical things. It's a family. So it's going to be the people that's going to make it work, because in the collaborative law training, there was a section called the paradigm shift. We're going to have to get out of that fight mode, and we're going to have to get into that, kind of our brother's keepers mode. Now, needless to say, we can't help everybody. Some people you just can't help, but you help who you can, and it's going to have to be the humanitarian type people that's going to make this work. You don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I tell people all the time that I hate litigation, and they have said that you're in the wrong profession. Well, I don't know that I agree with that. You have to be a fighter to be a lawyer. I used to sit on the State Bar Grievance Committee, and one of the questions that the lady who interviewed me asked me was, if you had a philosophy about practicing law, what would that be? And I said, you don't have to be an asshole to be a lawyer. You just don't. You can be kind. The state of the family is just in turmoil. Babies having babies, education. I mean, as a special guardian for the 305th District Court, I have many kids that I represent. These kids their parents' rights have been terminated, or for some reason they can't live with their parents and the state has permanent custody without termination. I have a lot of kids. I see what termination and taking a child out of their family does to them. The kids that are in foster care, even though they're in homes, most of them, they're not faring well. They're getting the short end of the stick. So it would behoove us all to try to get this family thing under control, or else we're going to continue to have these kids in foster care that languish in foster care and turning out a bunch of misfits. And I don't know how else to say it. We're turning out a bunch of misfits, and it scares me because these are going to be the adults when I'm gone. I like to tell people I'm a family lawyer. I'm not a divorce lawyer. When I talk about family, I'm talking about I'm a family lawyer who wants to heal families, not a family lawyer to divorce, take away, jump up in court, jumping up and down, screaming and getting all mad and doing a bunch of discovery. I'm not trying to do all that anymore. I have done that. I think it's a very broken system. I don't think that the system is set up to help families. And I think that's why I think collaborative law would be a good piece to try to turn this big ship around. I want to be instrumental in helping CPS serve these families to try to help them get where they need to be. Because if we can just put the resources in the right place, I don't think it takes a whole lot more money, because it's already a lot of money being spent. I think we have to do more screening of service providers, and it shouldn't just be service providers, whoever the lowest bidder. It has to be somebody who's screened and like-minded and keeping families and truly helping families, and helping maybe to try to get some of the bureaucracy out of it and not make it so difficult for people to help families. I think the foster parents, they play a big part. You have some really good foster parents, but you have some who are just doing it for money, and they're treating kids bad. In the same breath, the foster parents sometimes don't get the support that they need. Its goals are well intended, but it's not working. It's not working, because our kids are coming out way behind. If a kid ages out of the foster care system, they can get a free college education, go into a state school, get a free college education. But how many kids are in a position to take advantage of that? It's pitiful. Each time I open a case, my standard is, what would I do if this was my child?